guys? Welcome back to the Jenks Island podcast, the only NFL podcast where we get your takes from a washed-up Division III cornerback and his friends. I'm your host, Grayson Jenkins, joined again by my good friend and co-host, Ty. Sturb is still with family, so he will not be joining us, but happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everyone out there. As you can see, I got my Santa hat on. I'm ready to go. We got a good slate of games this week. There's a few rough games, and the Christmas Day games, maybe the NBA does own Christmas because the NFL has failed to take that over the last couple of years. And this year's slate is no better for Christmas. But before we get into our picks, let's check the leaderboard out for our Pickem group. So at number 1, Ty is still tied with Ryan at 162 wins, but Ryan has more losses because Ty forgot to do like the Thanksgiving picks, and he won those games. So technically, I'll give Ty the tiebreaker there. We got the Phoenix Fluffer in third at 161, Chad at fourth at 160, King Raw and I and He Hate Me Now at 159 wins, tied for fifth. And the Sturb is down at 15th with 146 wins. Anyways, getting right into this slate, Ty, I'll let you break down the games on the left with the Broncos on that side. But we got the first Christmas Day game being the Cowboys taking on the Commanders. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'll say this about these games, man. They would have been a great slate if, we had healthy quarterbacks on the other side of things. Coming into this game, the Commanders not only down Jaden Daniels after shutting him down early in the season, but also down Marcus Mariota down to the 37-year-old Josh Johnson. So that should be an exhilarating game. Dallas, I think that they're going to put it on the Commanders. Obviously, they're not really playing for much at this point in time, but their offense is too good to be stopped. They're going to be
Yeah.
playing Dak. They're going to be playing CD. They're going to be playing Pickens. No one is going to be able to stop them at this point in time. And defensively, I know that they have struggled, but when you're playing a third string quarterback, Quinnen Williams, Logan Wilson, that secondary, they'll be able to get it done. The entire Commanders team has just kind of been banged up this whole season. It's unfortunate to see. With Jaden, their running backs have been banged up at times. Terry's missed a ton of time. Debo's missed a ton of time. I'm interested to see more so like what do the Commanders do going into this offseason? Do they make changes on the coaching staff? What do they do to support Jaden? Because this is a huge year going into year 3, for Jaden. So give me the Cowboys in this one by a long shot, but I'm just more interested to see what this team does with their young quarterback going forward.
Yeah, completely agree here. Not much to add on as far as game picks. The Cowboys should be able to easily win this game, and both teams are done anyway, so it's not like a big impact. But like you said, I'm interested to see where the Commanders go this offseason. Moving on to the second Christmas Day game, we got the Lions taking on Max Brosmer and the Vikings. JJ McCarthy should be out in this one. You got to feel for the guy hurt his hand in the last game. In a victory over the Giants, who struggled on the offensive side of the ball. The Lions, on the other side, did end up losing in a pretty hectic fashion, with the ref coming out and saying the ruling on the field is a touchdown, but there was offensive pass interference. Like, he kind of worded it poorly, but I think if you knew that there was an offensive pass interference, like if you knew that was kind of going to be an offensive penalty, as soon as he said that he was out, like, they should have listened. I don't know why the Lions fans immediately celebrate. Like, they should have waited to finish to celebrate, but you're in the heat of the moment. It's kind of just how it is. DK Metcalf punched a fan in that game too, which was another hectic storyline. But the Steelers' offense, at least the running backs, were able to do pretty much about anything they wanted in the run game and the pass game. The Vikings do have solid running backs. Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones can do both of those things as well. So they're probably going to rely on the running backs here. They do still have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkins. They still have weapons. It's just if Max Brosmer can get the ball to those guys, they can win that game. I'm going to pick the Lions here. I think they're the better team on offense. So I do think they'll be able to succeed, and maybe it'll be a closer game than people expect with Max Brosmer in. But I do think the Lions will be able to win this one in Minnesota to keep their playoff hopes alive. Ty, who do you got?
Yeah, Jordan Mason questionable to play in this game as well. I'm going to go with the Lions. I can't get the thought out of my mind of the last time we saw Brosmer start a full game against Seattle, and he just looked horrendous.
Yeah.
I think Detroit, although a worse defense, has the ability to do something like that again, and their offense is high powered, and they'll do enough to score against a tough Minnesota defense and win this game. So give me the Lions.
Moving on to the Thursday night Christmas Day game, we got the Broncos taking on the Chris Aludicon-led Chiefs. Ty, how badly do you think this is going to be a blowout?
Yeah, pretty bad. I mean, start of the season, right, when I did my schedule predictions, I said, the Broncos will beat the Chiefs the first time around, and of course, they will ruin my favorite holiday and lose on Christmas Eve, in Arrowhead. Now, that no Pat Mahomes, no Gardner Minshew, Chris Oladokun, another team down to their third string quarterback, it's gonna be a blowout. I don't know that it'll be that bad. We've seen Denver in blowouts. Look at the Cincinnati game. Just start to coast in the second half, right?
Yeah.
They're like, let's just get out of here. Let's get out of here healthy, right? They just ran the ball. They won 28-3, I think, that game. That could be a similar style of game for this game. I think RJ started to start rolling more. He kind of caught fire last game. Obviously not, didn't get the win, but he's just feeling more comfortable in this offense, and he kind of looked untackleable in that second half. So I think that'll be the recipe for Denver. Just run the football, get out of there healthy, especially after you lost Pat Bryant in kind of a heartbreaking fashion to end that game, trying to come back. So give me the Broncos here, probably by 20 plus.
Yeah, RIP to my king, Pat Bryant. It was a tough injury to see. And people are like we're saying on Twitter, oh, it's a hospital ball, things like it really wasn't. Like it's just
Yeah,
a pass
he
over
was
the
10
middle and the
yards
guy
away
hit
from
him.
him. Like,
Yeah. Like it's ultimately in the end, it's just a good hit by the defensive back and not like it's not a great situation because you're down by so much with such little time. Like ultimately, like the timing played into that. If it was in the middle of the game, no one would have been really cared that much in that situation, I don't think. But I'm gonna pick the Broncos here, even without Pat Bryant, even though he's not the biggest impact on them, right? Cortland Sutton had an amazing game last week.
he's been
Um,
their wide receiver too, though, and he
yeah.
stepped up in a big way. But luckily, just a concussion, he did have movement in his extremities pretty soon after. So
Mhm.
hopefully he's back, for that
Yeah,
last game.
he should be able to come back for that last game, and he is a solid piece in that offense. But like you said, I think RJ Harvey's playing at a high level, so give me the Broncos here as well. Moving on to the Saturday night game, this is where it starts to get a little bit interesting. We got the Texans taking on the Chargers. Obviously, the Chargers can control their own destiny to winning the division now. The Texans, I don't. I want to say they still also have control. I think they have somewhat control of their destiny. They have to win both games. Maybe they need the Jaguars to lose one as well. I don't remember the whole
Yeah.
clinch scenario there. But I want to say that the Texans defense really let me down last week against Ashton Genty. I was very surprised that they're tackling with Ashton Genty. I'm surprised they let him get wide open on a pass route. Like Ashton Genty is, he's a solid receiving back, but I never saw like a wheel route go ball touchdown being his in his repertoire, but he did it. The Texans offense on the other side struggled a little bit against the Raiders defense, which is not something I really wanted to see either. I want to see them get Nico Collins the ball at a more consistent rate. They gave him like 8 targets and he only completed like half of those. I want to see them be able to give him a little bit more higher quality targets. The Chargers on the other side, Justin Herbert absolutely decimated the Cowboys defense, which he should, right? If he wants to be in that consideration for top 5 quarterbacks, which people have him in year out. And he looked like that top 5 quarterback against the Cowboys defense. His weapons are playing well. Everyone except for Oronde Gadsden, Ty and I were talking about that before we started recording. But I mean, every single other receiver for that team is playing lights out right now. And if those guys can continue to play that way, Justin Herbert can continue to play that way. I see no reason why they can't pass this Texans defense to a level where they can control the Texans offense and win a game in a close one. So I'm going to pick the Chargers here at home, even though there's not too much of a home field advantage in LA for them. But I do think the Chargers pull out a win against the Texans here. Ty, who do you got?
Yeah, I will say Texans need to win out. Jags need to lose one for the Texans to win the division because they're 11-4. Texans 10-5 right now. Texans here, I think that their defensive front is going to be good enough to bully the Chargers' offensive line, which is
Yep.
severely banged up and nothing like it was to start the season with Slater and Joe Alt. And I think their secondary is kind of slept on too with Stingley, Laster, Kalen Bullock. I think that they will slow down this offense a ton more so than we saw against Dallas. Right? I think the Dallas
Definitely.
game is kind of I think it kind of lies to us about what this Chargers team is because that's a bad defense, and the Texans defense is really, really good. So I think they'll fly around. They'll be able to slow them down, and the Texans offense hopefully gets Woody Marks back. They'll be able to do enough against a defense that has improved as the season's gone on, but is still not a great defense at this point in time. So give me
And
the
and
Texans.
Nick Chubb had a couple decent runs too last week against the Raiders. Like he showed that he could still run the ball at a decent level, and that's something that you want to see. If Woody Marks is out, like that could keep them alive in this game for sure. Moving on, Ty, we got the Saturday, a second Saturday game. We got the Ravens taking on the Packers. What are your thoughts on this one with Lamar possibly being out?
Yeah, this is the 4th game that would have been great if, we had healthy quarterbacks, but with Lamar experiencing that back pain, I don't think he's gonna be able to go. He couldn't even walk down the stairs. It was pretty excruciating pain, and I don't know, this Baltimore Ravens offense with Tyler Huntley, sure, they maintain a lot of consistency in what they're going to run, but they still failed to trust Derrick Henry, who really has carried them this last 3
Yep.
games. He's been lights out, and I know he had the fumble, but at that point in time, yeah, or after that point in time, right, he really flipped it on, started to carry that offense, and they kind of gave up on him. And I understand that they're swapping him with Keaton Mitchell, and he understands that. But when it comes to crunch time, you give the ball to your best players. You don't take
Yep.
the ball out of Josh Allen's hands. You wouldn't take the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands. So when Lamar Jackson is out, why would you take the ball away from Derrick Henry, who is on fire? So the Baltimore offense confuses me. I kind of think that we're starting to see maybe the end of Harbaugh, especially if they miss the playoffs. And with the way that they've mismanaged, just the way that they run this offense the past couple years. They did this with Derrick Henry last year. On the flip side, right, Green Bay, obviously they're without Micah Parsons, but they are, still a good team. Went to overtime against the Bears. Obviously, they are maybe without Jordan Love. I don't know at this point in time. Maybe without Malik Willis, he was a little bit banged up too. Um, but I think either way, Jordan Love, Malik Willis, it doesn't matter who's in. I think that they will do enough to win this game. I think Malik is probably he's a really slept on backup quarterback, probably a top 5 backup quarterback from what we've seen, with
I'd
him
agree
in
with
this
that.
Green
Yeah.
Bay offense. Yeah, I don't know about Love because I know he got the concussion. He's got a clear protocol, but I think if this is Tyler Huntley versus Malik Willis, Packers have a way better chance just because they will trust their running back in Josh Jacobs.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree here. I think the Packers can win this one. I mean, even without Jordan Love, I think Malik Willis is a solid enough quarterback. He's making plays with his legs in the last game. They stopped going to Josh Jacobs, and they said that it wasn't due to the fumble. They said it was just Emmanuel Wilson was running the ball well. Killed me
Yeah.
in fantasy. Another thing that killed me this week, which pissed me off. But yeah, I think the Packers will go back to Josh Jacobs, and this one gives him a little bit more rest. Obviously,
The
coming,
knee is
you know,
still he's
it's
been
still gonna be
questionable, like,
swollen.
every
Yeah.
week, so
Inflammation, things like that in the knee, like, that's been hampering him, you can tell. So maybe they use Emmanuel Wilson, but if the run game was working as much as it did last week against the Bears defense, I think they can win this one regardless, and the pass game was still there with Malik Willis, so give me the Packers here as well. Moving on, we got the Seahawks taking on the Panthers. The Seahawks obviously just won and probably the game of the year over the Rams. The Panthers beat the divisional opponent in the Bucks. Obviously, Baker Mayfield has struggled in this back half of the year after being in MVP talks for the first half. He's slowly fallen off, whereas the Panthers are staying hot in their division, except for when they play the Saints. The Seahawks are staying afloat in that NFC West race and are at the top right now with the win over the Rams. Obviously, there's a topic of discussion of should that 2-point conversion have counted since the ball was advanced after it was a fumble on a 2-point conversion. You can't do it on like a 4th down or things like that. Regardless of that discussion, though, I think the Seahawks are a much better team than the Panthers, and I think everyone can see that. The Panthers are a solid team, but I don't trust Bryce Young against a good defense like the Seahawks. So give me the Seahawks here against the Panthers. Sam Darnold should be able to throw a couple touchdowns. I think JSN should have a solid game. Give me the Seahawks here. Ty, who do you got?
yeah, give me the Seahawks too. I know the Panthers beat the Rams earlier in the season, but they were able to take advantage of a poor secondary in LA that we've kind of been flip-flopping all season long on. Seattle secondary is a lot better, so I don't think, like you said, Bryce is gonna be able to pick them apart in the same way, so give me the Seattle.
Moving on, we got the Cardinals taking on the Bengals. Bengals obviously had a really solid game last week, and the Chase Brown breakout happened. He was a league winner all offseason, is what I called him. He finally has started to come alive. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is one of those games that the Bengals handle, right? They handle games against bad teams. No matter how bad their defense is, their offense is too high powered to lose games to the Arizona Cardinals, who, Jacoby Brissett and Michael Wilson have shown flashes at times, but this defense for Arizona has just been pitiful in the second half of the season, pretty much since like week 4. They have been awful. We kind of talked about them early on, and we continued to talk about this week in and week out, how they were a pretty good defense for those first couple weeks, and we were hyping them up. They were young. Will Johnson was going to come back, Walter Nolan, yada yada, and they just have not been able to live up to that hype. Cincinnati, we know their defense is bad, but the offense, like you said, really just put it on Miami last week, and I think they'll be able to do that again this week. They need to make Joe Burrow happy. So they need to score a ton of
Yeah.
points and hope that, this offseason they can get him some. I think the biggest need is offensive line help at this point in time. Let your defense be bad, protect your quarterback, and try to score 40 points. I mean, obviously, you want to make some improvements on defense, but I think first and foremost, you need to worry about making that $50 million, $60 million quarterback happy. So get them some offensive line help.
Yeah, give me the Bengals here too. To that point, like I was mentioning, Chase Brown was balling out in the pass pro game. He was pretty terrible in that game in the pass pro, and he wasn't helping the O line. So with a bad O line, a bad pass blocking running back in a lot of situations, yeah, you got to bolster that up in this offseason. Hopefully they do that for Joe, especially since I'm a Joe Burrow dynasty owner in one of my leagues. Anyways, moving on, we got the Steelers taking on the Browns. The Steelers obviously most likely going to be without DK Metcalf unless that suspension gets appealed and he succeeds. He is appealing. If it succeeds, he might be able to play. The other side, the Browns, Shadur Sanders and the Browns had a close game with the Bills. I was surprised it was as close as it was. Their defense is still solid, obviously. Myles Garrett does still need one more sack to break that record. He could possibly get it against the very slow Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers can still move a little bit, but it is a much less mobile target than Josh Allen in the pocket. So that's an interesting storyline for this game. The Steelers obviously playing really, really well right now on offense, the offense side of the ball. Kenneth Gainwell and Jalen Warren are playing at a higher level than most people expected, I think, going into the season. And I think that's something that they can really lean on, especially if DK Metcalf is out. This Browns defense will try to slow that down, but they struggled against James Cook last week. So give me the Steelers in this one, beating the Browns. Ty, who do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna shock everyone here. I'm gonna take the Browns. I think without TK Metcalf, this offense becomes truly one dimensional. They're gonna rely on Gainwell and Warren, like you said, and that makes it easier for defenses to key in because there is no true threat on the outside. You're not fearing 35-year-old Adam Thielen. You're not fearing Roman Wilson or Calvin Austin at this point in time. So I think that this is a good enough defense that they can slow them down. We saw what they were able to do to Josh Allen last week, a much more athletic quarterback. Now you put Aaron Rodgers, a much older and less mobile quarterback at this point in time. I think Myles Garrett probably has a field day, gets a couple sacks, breaks the record, and the offense does enough. I know they're hurting without Quinshon Judkins, but Jerome Ford, they have some options. And Shadur hasn't been. If Shadur can play, just hang on to the football. Don't throw interceptions. Play smart football. Let everything come to you. I think that he can do that against the Steelers defense that we've seen be very up and down at points in time.
Yep.
If he turns the ball over, yeah, the Steelers are probably going to win this football game because they'll be able to do enough. But I think I really think that without DK Metcalf, the Steelers offense becomes one dimensional and it becomes a lot easier to key in on and load the box with a defense that has a really good front eight. So yeah, give me the Browns here.
Yeah, he's got to also not take sacks, and that's something I want to see him be able to do. Is just be smarter when throwing the ball away, things like that. Not trying to make too many plays happen. And sorry, Dylan Sampson is another guy I want to see make some plays
Yeah.
in this one. Anyways, moving on, we got the Jaguars taking on the Colts. Ty, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it kind of, depends on what quarterback we get here. The Colts technically are not eliminated at this point in time. They would need the Texans to lose out and they would need to win out. So, will we see Phil play? Maybe. Will they want to get a look at Riley Leonard? Because, next season, are they going to have Philip Rivers, right? Like that is the question. If he says, I'm done after this year. And you don't have Daniel Jones. Even if you resign him, you're going to miss him for some period of time because of the Achilles injury. You don't trust Anthony Richardson. So you kind of need to get a look at this guy that you drafted. And otherwise, you need to draft another quarterback in one of the middle rounds this coming season. I don't, if they have Phil, I think they have a chance. But the way that the Jaguars are playing right now, we saw Trevor Lawrence obviously light up the Denver defense, specifically Parker Washington. I mean, he was untackleable in that game. And, Trevor's just been on a hot streak the past 4 games, hasn't thrown an interception, really, doing a good job of taking care of the football, but also throwing a lot of touchdowns, scoring a lot of touchdowns with his legs as well. So he's not playing, he's not just playing keep away. He is attacking
Yep.
these defenses and getting what he wants pretty much. So Liam Cohen is getting the most out of him. The run game has been pretty good with ETN, and their defense is obviously ferocious. Forced an interception against Denver. Denver did fumble the ball. That wasn't from Jacksonville, but they're still get 2 turnovers in that game. I think with the way that Philip Rivers is at this point in time, he's not a mobile quarterback. He's a smart quarterback, and you could see it in the game last night, just playing, at such a highly intellectual level, checking out of things, kind of knows this offense better than Daniel Jones did at this point in time. Like it did look smoother, but they can't run the football right now with JT, and I don't see that getting much better. They had an injury at center. I think that their offensive line is just getting pushed back at this point in time. Like JT is getting hit at the one
Yeah.
1 yard, 2 yards downfield, and I think they're kind of giving up on him too early too. Early on in the season, maybe he would have a 2 yard carry, a 3 yard carry, and then you would get a 70-yard chunk out of him. They give him one run and then they go two pass plays, and they just kept doing that all night last night. And the first time that they kind of went two runs with him, they got into like a 3rd and 2 situation. So I just think at this point in time, the Colts, don't have enough, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are playing really, really hot. So give me the Jags.
Yeah, give me the Jags here too. They're the better team at this point in time. Their defense is playing well. Their offense is playing lights out. So yeah, give me the Jaguars
And the
here.
Colts defense, I mean, they fell apart. Like, they had been
They
pretty
look
good the
bad.
past couple of games.
It's
Last
looked
night, they
bad.
were horrendous,
Yeah.
and they don't and I know they don't have sauce, but that is not they just look terrible, so.
Yeah, it was, I had Kittle. I needed, obviously, Ty and I were talking about this. I needed 32 points in a tight end premium league. He had 31.6. So, I needed a catch, 4 yards, literally anything with Kittle, and it was guaranteed to happen. Like, it was a guarantee. The guy was playing at no hope. Everyone in the league chat was just blowing it up like, "Oh, the coop's going down." Like, the guy was playing was going down, and then Kittle gets hurt and just screwed me. So, if the Colts, maybe if the whole entire Jaguars offense goes down, maybe they have a shot, but I just don't see it happening with their defense the way it's playing right now. Anyways, moving on, we got the Bucks taking on the Dolphins. The Buccaneers, tough loss last week against their divisional opponent in the Panthers. The Dolphins obviously playing like, I mean, they're playing a little bit better than they were at the start of the season, but they're still not a solid team. Like, I just don't think they're good on both sides of the ball. And they have Quinn Ewers, right? Like, he's trying to get adjusted to the NFL speed, things like that. He didn't look awful, but he didn't look like an NFL starter in his first real start. Give me and it was against a Bengals defense that's not the best in the league, and I'll say that. The Buccaneers defense, I do think, is a little bit better than the Bengals defense, even though they haven't had that great of a season on defense. But I think they'll be able to slow down Devon Achan enough to force Quinn Ewers to make plays, and I don't think he'll be able to. So give me the Buccaneers to beat Miami in Miami. Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we've talked about this. The Tampa defense, Sturb calls it they're a pass funnel, right? They're really good up front. And so yeah, they'll be able to slow down a chain, and they're going to make Quinn Ewers beat them. Quinn Ewers threw two interceptions against one of the worst defenses in the league. So yeah, give me Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and there was like it was like one throw. I don't remember who it was to. It was down the sideline, and it was just a really, really bad throw. Like, just I don't know. But anyways, moving on from that game, we got the Patriots taking on the Jets. Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not going to spend much time on this game. Brady Cook is terrible. They are not going to win a football game with him against a team that is this good. I know, the Patriots have faltered at times against good teams like Buffalo, or they almost lost it to Baltimore. Had John Harbaugh not taken Derrick Henry out of the game for the last 12 minutes of the game. Um, but against bad teams, they have thrived and done what they should is win those games, and so that's what they're going to do again this week. So give me New England.
Yeah, give me the Patriots here too. Nothing to add. The Saints absolutely destroyed the Jets. There's no reason the Patriots shouldn't be able to as well. Moving on, we got my Saints taking on the Tennessee Titans. The Saints are riding high under Shuck, 3 straight wins. The Titans just beat the Chiefs, albeit without their top two quarterbacks, but the Titans also get a win. Cam Ward looked solid in that game. Their offense was looking to try to score points whenever they possibly could. Like, they didn't slow down towards the end of the game. They were still fighting for points even after the game was all but over. So it is a fun game in the rookie watch, right? Like, you want to see Tyler Shough versus Cam Ward. But on paper, like, this isn't a game that's attractive for anyone out there. This is two garbage teams, not garbage, but the Saints are a little bit above garbage at this point in time. But two
Bottom
bad
10.
teams. Yeah, two bad teams playing each other, duking it out to end the season. Give me my Saints beating the Titans here. Tyler Shough is just he's rolling right now. Kellen Moore seemingly has a good groove of the offense, even without us like a slew of weapons and running backs for the Saints offense and offensive linemen. The offense was able to get it going. Tyler Shough had 300 plus passing yards as a seventh or eighth game rookie quarterback. So I love what I'm seeing right now from the Saints. I think they should be able to win this game against the Titans that are a worse team. So give me the Saints. Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, give me the Saints. The Titans defense is just as bad as the Jets defense, but minus Jeffrey Simmons, he's the only guy they really got out there.
Yep.
So I think Shuck will be able to do enough, more than enough against this defense. And Cam Ward, love him, think he's going to be great in this league, but he just does not have the weapons around him or the coaching staff for him. So yeah, give me the Saints.
Yeah, and let me say this real quick. Like the Saints passed the ball almost 50 times, and I could see that being the case again this week if the lines for Tyler Shough are relatively low. Like if they're close to 200 like they were last week, I would definitely say take the over on that because they're going to be forcing the pass.
Yeah, I don't think they trust Estime enough to give him a full workload, and that was
Yeah,
apparent last week.
especially like with an interior O line that's pretty depleted and going against Jeffrey Simmons, like
Yeah.
he's going to be able to reset the O line a good
And
amount of
Devondre Sweat
time.
too. He's actually a good player that I should have
Yeah,
brought up. Devondre Sweat's
definitely.
a good
We
player,
we
and
uh
he's a great run stuffer
We talked about Sweat in the
on the under
before the
25 team.
offseason, yeah, and so he's definitely one of
He's
the
a dog.
guys that's benefiting the Titans and a building piece for the future. Moving on, Ty, the second grossed game of this slate, we got the Giants taking on the Raiders. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the Raiders obviously showed a little bit of life last week against the Texans defense in a shocking way. I predicted that, not predicted. My hot take was that the Texans would have 7+ sacks, and I kind of believe that too. I thought they would, eat the Raiders offensive line. Obviously, Ashton Genty had a pretty good day, and I see that carrying into this week. I think Genty is, this gives him a chance to start to get into a groove against a team that, I know both these teams are struggling, but the Giants, as of late, have not shown much of anything. I know they only lost 16-13 to the Vikings, but they just didn't. Jackson Dart was like 1 for 5 going into the near halftime. So I just don't think offensively they have enough right now. I think defensively they're not playing up to their talent level. Their coaching staff sucks. Kafka is terrible. They desperately need to find a solution at the head coaching position. And the Raiders, maybe they move on from Pete and maybe they move on from Gino, but they at least have some building blocks there with Crosby, with Bowers, with Genty, and they just are the more talented team right now and the better coach team. Even if Pete is let go, even if Gino's let go, at least they're veteran options. So give me the Raiders here.
Yeah, give me the Raiders here too. Nothing else to add. I don't think anyone's going to watch this game fully at all. Moving on, we got the Eagles taking on the Bills, a much better matchup here going into the playoffs. The Bills are still fighting for a potential shot at winning the division. I believe they have to win both, and then the Dolphins would have to beat the Patriots in that final game. But the Bills are a team that we saw Josh Allen last week have his worst game since his rookie season, right? At least fantasy wise. It wasn't a bad game. He was definitely a game manager in it, but he wasn't a productive player in the pass game. He wasn't an explosive guy. He wasn't having those big Josh Allen type plays. The Eagles on the other side are playing at a relatively high level on offense right now. Jalen Hurts is keeping the ball out of harm's way. The pass catchers are playing well. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith having good roles. Dallas Goedert obviously is another guy that is having a really solid season this year. This is a game that I think if you picked either team and you had some sort of argument one way or the other, I think you'd be completely valid in picking either of these teams. That being said, it's a home game in Buffalo, and in these close games all season, I've said that the home team advantage is going to be massive, especially in a game like this where if this was in Philadelphia, I'd be picking the Eagles because the link is it's such a serious home field advantage. This one is in Buffalo. The Buffalo fans go nuts when they're at home. So give me the Bills in Buffalo. Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, give me the Bills here too. I think part of last week's game is kind of inflated by Dawson Knox dropping a wide open touchdown in the end zone. I mean that game it would have been a bigger margin of victory. Josh Allen's got another touchdown, and he pretty much gifted that to Knox.
Yep.
I understand drops happen, but that one was pretty bad. Buffalo. I'll say this about them: their defense has been a little bit more opportunistic at times in the second half of the season. I know we
Yep.
knocked them a lot in the early part of the season, just like, they weren't a great defense, yada yada, but they have been better as the season has gone on. And I think that lines up for success for them against a Philly offense that, yeah, sure, they have kind of figured out some things, how to get AJ Brown the ball or Devonta at times, but They still can't run the ball. The strength of this Buffalo defense is the secondary. They're one of the, least amount of yards per game allowed in the passing game. So I think that Buffalo's defense lines up really well against what this Philly offense is at this point in time. So give me the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, let me add. Josh Allen was on that team where I lost by point 4 points as well. So that Dawson Knox drop, man,
Yeah.
it's just a dagger. This was a rough week in fantasy for me. It was a tough beat. But anyways, moving on, we got Sunday Night Football, Ty. Another great game here. We got the Bears taking on the 49ers. Really fun game in the NFC playoff race. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, the guy that screwed me, CMC's garbage time touchdown was what won my opponent the game, even though Tonjes's touchdown should have been ruled a touchdown. But San Francisco, they were rolling on all cylinders last week. Unstoppable. They haven't punted in 2
2
games.
weeks.
Thomas Morstead hasn't punted in a month. And they're doing all of this without some of their best defensive players, without Fred Warner, without Nick
Yep.
Bosa. I know that obviously doesn't go into punting the ball, but they are winning in dominant fashion week in and week out. Their defense made big plays. They had the pick six. They forced turnovers without literally 2 Hall of Fame players. Fred Warner's a lock of a Hall of Famer, and Nick Bosa might be a Hall of Famer as well.
Yep.
And that just goes to show what a great job Rob Saleh's doing. What a great job John Lynch does drafting year in and year out. Getting guys like Tatum Bethune to come out of nowhere, Malik Mustafa, right? Even Talanoa Hufanga, who was, now with the Denver Broncos, he was like a 4th round pick for San Francisco a couple years ago. So, they're just doing a great job with what they've got. And they're going up against an offense that I think they run the football really well. I don't really trust Caleb Williams. I know they won that football game with, him throwing the game-winning touchdown. But against, an opportunistic defense like San Francisco, I think that will force Caleb into making some mistakes. He's very quick to leave the pocket, and I think sometimes when he's outside the pocket, he makes some really, really stupid throws. One of my buddies who's a Bears fan, he kind of brought this throw to my attention, and I didn't even think about it. But a couple weeks ago when they were playing the Browns, and Caleb threw that touchdown to DJ Moore in the back of the end zone. I just watched it back on slow-mo about 15 times. He threw that pass with 4 guys in the area. I know that was a great play, but that was not a great decision, right? You don't want to see your quarterback making, that was a USC level throw for Caleb Williams, right? Where he just kind of chucked it up and kind of hoped and prayed. I know it obviously ended up working out for him, but think about how many times it hasn't worked out for Caleb Williams, especially at this level.
Yep.
I know that the Bears are hot right now. Their defense is playing well and they can run the football, but I don't think that they have enough to do it against a San Francisco team that I think they're the best team in the NFC.
Interesting. You see, I wanted to pick the 49ers here before you just did all of that. And honestly, like everything you said talked me into picking the 49ers. But because I'm behind, I think I have to ride with the Bears here and pick the Bears. But let me, my pick will be the Bears. But let me say that I think the Bears are riding on an extremely ridiculous luck run, right? Right. I think like we've said that about a couple teams going into the playoffs the last few seasons. This year it's the Bears, and I think that luck will run out once you reach the playoffs and you need guys to make plays. So I see the Bears possibly getting into the playoffs, right, and then losing in the first or second round. Maybe if they're the 1 seed, the second round, one and done. But I do think the Bears, like this is a great performance for your season. And I think they can beat the 49ers. But once they get into the playoffs, I see that luck kind of running out. Bears, props to you. You're going to win this game. But yeah, I don't see them being a Super Bowl contender this season just quite yet. But give me the Bears here. 49ers could easily win this one. I just think their defense, obviously against the Colts, like they had a solid game. But if Phillip Rivers made a couple different decisions, maybe they come back and win that game. Like that late pick, maybe instead of a pick and they score on that drive. I don't think the Colts defense would have gotten a stop.
That
But
one wasn't on Phil though. That
yeah,
was on
Tyler
Tyler
Warren
Warren.
kind of slipped
He
away or
sold
went
out.
upfield as he it wasn't the best. Like I think the linebacker could have possibly made a play. It might not have been a pick, right? Like Warren could have
Yeah.
contested it. But yeah, maybe if a couple different plays went their way, the 49ers lose that one. But I think the Bears will have a better defense and better offense, could win that one Sunday night. Moving on, we got Monday Night Football. We got the Rams taking on the Foul Clowns and Kyle Pitts, who is balling out this year. He's playing to finally the level that people were describing him at, that he should have played his first 4 years, and there's this year 4, his first 3 years in the league. So Kyle Pitts, props to you. Everyone else in the Foul Clowns, I despise. The Rams are going to win this game in a big way. I think they should be able to beat the Foul Clowns by at least 7 to 10 points. So give me the Rams here against Atlanta in Atlanta. Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was interested to see where you were going to go when you said in a big way. I think 7 to 10 points is possible. I think the Falcons, they're one of those teams that they have enough offensive talent and they have a veteran
Definitely.
quarterback that they can keep games close. Their defense isn't half bad either. Their young guys have really showed out in a strong way this season. You never know, right? Because the
Yeah.
Rams secondary is really not great, right? It is the weakness of their team. Without Devontae Adams, with the way that their secondary is, like, you know, you could key in on a guy like Puka and try to take advantage of that secondary on the flip side. But I mean, you saw what Puka Nacua was able to do
Yeah,
without
he's
Devontae
absurd.
Adams this past week. So give me the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, Puka played an insane game.
I need him again this week. I have him in my fantasy championship, and I mean, he won me the game on Thursday night. Like, it was
Yeah.
already over. I had
Yeah,
50
his performance was just an absurd performance, especially after, everything that was happening that day and the days building up to that. That was an interesting storyline, and he just kind of shut everyone up with that performance. Anyways, that will do it for our week 17 picks. The only rapid discussion we have for this week is going to be our hot takes of the week. So, Ty, what is your hot take of the week going to be?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go back to sacks here. I think that the Denver Broncos defense gets 7+ sacks against this Chiefs team. That number might even be low. I think, with the third string quarterback, with the way that offensive line is right now, and Denver's defense feeling like, okay, we haven't played well, right? You kind of heard Nick Benito come out, and he was very disappointed in his performance, very disappointed in the way that the defense has played the past couple weeks. This has got to be the get right game for them before they go into a huge matchup in LA next week for the 1 seed and possibly for the division if the Chargers don't lose this week. So give me 7+ sacks out of the Denver defense.
Yeah, my hot take, and this might not be the hottest of takes, and it is a homer take, but I think Chris Olave is going to have a league-winning performance here in this game again. Like, he could have another 10 reception, 100+ yards, and a touchdown performance against this Titans defense. He is truly the guy that Tyler Shough is just looking to every single play. You see it. He's getting separation at a really high rate, and I think the Saints are going to rely on him in this game with another 40+ pass attempt game. So give me Chris Olave to drop a league-winning performance back-to-back weeks. Anyways, that will do it for our week 17 picks. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everyone out there. We will see you guys next week. You guys know where to check us out on social media at Jenks Island and wherever you get your podcasts at Jenks Island as well. We will see you guys next week. Happy New Year, everyone. See you then.